I'm going to try to get through 8 of them in 2 days. There are hundreds of them. This is the DSM-5, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Psychological Illnesses. It's 900 pages of goodness. If this is something that you're interested in, to me, this is the best part of psychology. It's abnormal psych, it's what's going on, it helps explain sort of a lot of things. This is the old version, this is DSM-4, this is DSM-5. If you're ever in here and you like this stuff, pick one up and start flipping through it. You'll learn a lot. I can only hit on so many things. So I'm going to give you a taste of, I'm not going to do the most basic ones. I'm not going to do OCD or ADHD or a lot of the ones that are sort of very prevalent. I'm going to touch on some side ones and some that are misunderstood. So if you look here, these are the 8 that I'm covering that will be on my quiz. Hoarding disorder, we'll talk about that first. Something called dissociative fugue, which I think is incredibly interesting. Bipolar disorder, which I think is incredibly misunderstood. People say, oh, you're so bipolar. You're not, though. We'll talk about Pica. People know Pica from My Strange Addiction, the woman that eats her couch, you know, and things like that. Hypochondriasis, if you're a hypochondriac, but an actual hypochondriac, where, you know, you go, oh my God, I have this thing on my leg, I have to go to the doctor right now, and it becomes a huge deal. Or I'm not breathing very well, I'm having a heart attack. I'm going to the emergency room. Trichotillomania. Trichotillomania is one of the impulse control disorders we'll talk about. Like kleptomania, you can't stop stealing. Pyromania, you can't stop lighting things on fire. Trichotillomania is you can't stop pulling out your own hair and eating it a little bit. Specific phobias we'll talk about, people that have specific phobias, and selective mutism, which I think is interesting. Just not saying anything for a year. Okay.
Also like a bench warmers. The one guy, Ollie.
I miss bench warmers. I will trickle in a video or 2 here and there. When it's necessary, I probably won't let the whole thing play out just because time, and I'm going to need to churn through time as much as possible. I'm killing time right now because I had it in my hand, but I've lost the damn remote again. I had it in my hand. It was in my hand. All right, so I think a lot of us have seen these hoarding shows, so I probably won't let this play too. This is not the one I wanted to play. I probably won't let it play too long. That's enough for the one. About a couple of minutes, and then we'll get into it.
Every day, we ask people to open their homes so we can share their stories. But rarely is one so unsanitary
Don't want to get you.
that I needed a sterilizing spray down and plastic over my boots just to touch. These are not the hoarders you see on reality TV.
Climbing in it.
We are in a quiet neighborhood in Wichita Falls, and John Wall is our tour guide.
John Wall.
Not that John Wall.
His deep breath is the first clue of what's to come. Okay?
Okay.
The air is thick with the smell of cat urine, and trash is everywhere you look.
If you look down here, rotten food, see all the flies? It all just piles up here. So this room's completely unfunctional. And when you come in here, this is the master bedroom.
Where was he sleeping?
Here. Might have been in the chair. And it's sticking. You got stacked up and very unusable. But his son was sleeping in that chair until recently.
Weeks ago, this family's adult son called Wall, asking if his SteriClean services could help dig his family out.
It was about 3 days worth of work, decluttering it, cleaning it.
But how did this happen? Well, are you ready to head in? The homeowner agreed to tell us, as long as we hid his face.
And of course, apologize for the appearance.
We're calling him Stan.
We didn't really have any problem until we saw the buttons
He says the clutter started 8 weeks ago when he discovered bed bugs.
Sure.
He and his wife have medical issues and can't lift much, making cleaning tough. They stayed at a hotel the last few weeks.
Oh, God, I hadn't even looked in here.
But for a split second, Stan seemed to be seeing his home through new eyes.
Did this surprise you? You just kind of
Yeah.
gasped looking in here.
Yeah, that surprised me.
Do you consider yourself a hoarder?
All right, so that's the question we need to take a look at here. Do you consider yourself a hoarder? So on your sheet of paper, I've got some, we're not going to fill every box on every one of these things, but I need you to realize in order for it to be a disorder, it's got to do three things. It's got to be deviant, it's got to be distressful, and it's got to be dysfunctional. Deviant meaning it's got to be something different than normal, right? And this is certainly different than normal. I've heard people claim I'm a little bit OCD. That's not a thing you can be. You're either OCD or you're not, right? I equate it to pregnancy. You can't be a little bit pregnant. You either are or you aren't. If you're a little bit OCD, that means you like things a certain way. And if it's not going to destruct your life. But if you are OCD, you're not getting out of the house unless everything goes particularly well. You step on this crack between the two tiles.
Start over.
Now I've got to clear my head, and we've got to tap it 6 times, okay, before I can continue. Some sort of ritual behavior. Your behavior has to stress you out, it's got to affect you emotionally, and it's got to affect your life. If you don't make it into work because the door is not clicking right as you exit the room, or the light switch when you're doing it, oh, and I had a bad thought. Okay, no. And you have to then do a ritual, like you can't get into work because of it, now you have OCD. I like things orderly. You just like things orderly. People tend to like extrapolate and go, I'm a little OCD, or I'm a little this, or I'm a little that. So it's got to affect your life. And that's one of the things I want you to keep in mind as we're going through this. So let's talk about hoarding. A definition of hoarding is pretty simple. It's a persistent difficulty in getting rid of possessions. A persistent difficulty in getting rid of possessions. And it does not matter the value of those possessions. Okay? It can be, how many of you have watched like Buried Alive hoarding shows? You're all writing right now, I know. If you've seen them, they will fight about the smallest thing to get rid of. And there's always an excuse. I can use that. That has value. It's broken. I know with a little glue it'll be fine. You have 42 others just like it that aren't broken. But that one has special meaning. And sort of the meaning then attaches to it. So don't forget this is a psychological issue. Symptoms is usually you have mass accumulation, stuff piled up. You will have purposeful collecting, going out and getting more. You don't even know what's in your house, but you'll go get more of it. Oh, what a great deal. This is a great deal, including dumpster diving, estate sales, garage sales, those types of things. And you will place high value on low value items. I've got to have that. No, you can't get rid of that. My friend's cousin gave that to me. It's the only thing they ever gave me. Okay. Like many of these things, if you don't get inside that person's mind, it becomes real easy to make fun. Telling the anorexic, just eat a sandwich. It's telling the person with major clinical depression to just cheer up. It's telling the hoarder, just get rid of it. They're the exact same thing. Now, if you don't have that thing, listen, I'm not a hoarder. I am an anti-hoarder. There's nothing in my house. I get rid of stuff that's got total meaning, value to me, and whatever. To tell someone, just get rid of it, it doesn't matter. Well, it matters to me. You're not seeing it from my perspective. And that's one thing I think you need to remember about psychological disorders. If you know someone with an issue, let's say you know someone with depression, you know it's not about just be happy. If you know someone with an eating disorder, you know it's not about you're fine, you're thin enough. It's not. They don't perceive themselves that way. The hoarder doesn't perceive themselves. Listen, anyone in their right mind, and I mean that very specifically. Walking into that house, oh, the smell of cat. You know, the commercials about being nose blind to your own house, right? Going into someone's. If you start to live around it, it becomes normal, right? It becomes problematic. How common is this? Question mark. 2 to 6% of the population. 2 to 6% of the population is probably. Now, why do we not know? Look at the outside of some of these houses. Can you tell that they're hoarders? Of course not. Now, some people, there was a couple of houses on the blocks where you can see stuff in their backyards that's really piled up. That maybe you can see, but you can't see in their house. And sometimes they'll be very well put together, these people. They don't smell. They're keeping themselves, hygienic and all that, and you can't tell, but you go in their house and then you see it. So maybe 2 to 6%. Causes. What do you think causes hoarding disorder? Yes?
They probably don't care.
Wait, what'd you say?
They probably don't care.
I think it's more they've lost something along the way. It's either like a huge traumatic life event, a parent dies, both your parents die, and you don't want to get rid of any of their stuff, and it starts out that way. I can't get rid of this. This is my dad's. I can't get rid of that. My mom bought that, and I think she would want to keep it. And then I bought this because it reminds me of. Or it's a traumatic event the other way. When you were growing up, your parents would never let you keep anything. Or they did something like, I'm getting rid of all your toys, or I'm throwing out your comic books, your baseball cards. My mom threw out my baseball cards and I never Then that can be sort of a contributing factor to that. All right, treatment. Those shows are really kind of cute where they come in and over 2 days they clean the house and then they leave them they show the before and the after. Well, and then they'll sometimes come back and they'll be like, oh man, they went back to hoarding. The key to all of these disorders is identifying the issue and sticking with treatment. In this case, it's got to be behavioral therapy. Listen, we're not going to worry about anything here, Victor, except this marker. I want you to think about the value of this marker. And then I want you to think about your stress level if we get rid of this marker. And you deal with one thing. And you see sometimes in those shows, I'm not taking it away, but I want you to think about me taking it away. How stressed does that make you? About a 6. Okay, let's talk about this. And then we work that stress down to a 2, and we realize that, okay, well, we can get rid of this marker. You don't need it because you have 2 other things to write with. It's going to be okay. And slowly but surely, it doesn't happen in an hour. It doesn't happen in a week. It doesn't happen in a month. You have to retrain. So what's the outlook for hoarders? Good if they seek help and maintain therapy. Seek help and maintain therapy. That's really important. You're going to hear a lot of similarities as I go through these 8. So I'll give you a for instance, and I use depression. Depression hits pretty close to me. I've got very, very close people to me that have suffered through depression in their life. If you're taking antidepressants, right? You're taking medication for depression. It's going to mess with your brain chemistry. It's going to make you feel different. And it's not going to regulate for X amount of time. It might take 2 months to get you, man, it's going through a lot of changes. And if you stick with it and you keep it regular, then you've got to a point where you can decide, do I like this? Is this working for me? And then you may have to make a decision. But I've had friends who have gone to therapy and taken meds for 3 years. And then at that point they go, man, everything is great. My life is in order. My job is in order. I'm not drinking as much as I used to. All of these things. What do? They stop going to see their therapist. They stop taking their meds. Why? Because my life is solid. What happens? The wheels come off. The wheels come off. What was keeping your life solid? Maintaining this thing. Listen, Coach Zach's diabetic, right? That's not a secret. He monitors his blood sugar all the time. He stays here. Do you think he can just stop?
No.
No.
He'll die.
No, he will die. Okay? You have to start thinking of mental illness very similar to physical illness. Listen, if you have bipolar disorder, which we're going to talk about, can you live the rest of your life totally fine? Yes, if you manage those manic and depressive moments to here. It can be manageable. It can be livable. Is it a lifetime illness? That one is. Okay? So you can manage it, but if you're like, well, the hell with it, then now we're here. Okay? So I've got a box for other here. There's an animal hoarding subtype to hoarding.
Oh, I've seen those.
What is that?
85 cats.
Or like birds and
Yeah.
they collect like squirrels and stuff. And
Rats. There was a rat hoarding thing.
Right.
Had tens of thousands of rats.
They
They
had
live in the
this,
bed.
This lady had like 6 huskies and she couldn't take care of them because their whole entire house was full of other animals.
Right. If you've got
She had, like,
42
monkeys.
dogs.
Monkeys and like
Yeah.
4 huskies.
That'd be
So-
cool, but
Listen, I think sort of any sort of psychological issues hit close to home for just about all of us. We either know someone or ourselves have had some issues. So I want us to be able to talk, and at least start having these conversations, and it's not such a taboo topic anymore. All right, number 2 is dissociative fugue. This one is interesting. I might I don't know that I want to poke fun at it because it seems like a movie type of thing happening here. But if you've seen Breaking Bad, are any Breaking Bad fans in here? Has anyone seen the show? 1. 2 of you have seen Breaking Bad. You need to readjust the priorities in your life. Okay?
halfway through the second time.
In the show, Walter White fakes a dissociative fugue state. And I want to explain it, then I want to show it to you. So here's dissociative fugue. Dissociative means dissociate, to break away from. Multiple personality disorder is called dissociative identity disorder, having multiple identities, dissociating from the host. But here's dissociative fugue. It's very similar to dissociative amnesia. So dissociative amnesia definition is, listen, if I were to hit Victor in the head, I keep you just close to me. If I were to hit Victor in the head with a shovel and he forgets who he is, that's amnesia, right? But it's amnesia caused by a brain injury. Dissociative amnesia is stress-induced amnesia. There is so much crap happening to you that you can't deal with it, so what your mind does is it shuts down. You forget who you are. You forget everything about yourself. And then you can sort of go on happily. Dissociative fugue is, here's your definition. Amnesia, forgetting your life's history, mixed with traveling. Okay, I'll give you a scenario. You're a middle-aged man. All right, I want you to imagine yourself as a middle-aged man. And you've got money issues, wife issues, work, everything is just on you. Your escape is you go to walk the dog. You go out, you walk the dog, and you just keep going. And you wind up in another state. And you pick up a new identity, and you just start living there. None of this is done consciously. There is no decision that's made, how with this, I'm walking out of my life. When your brain is overrun with stress, it does creative things to cause a solution. This is going to be, if I didn't know who I was, your brain goes, if I didn't know who I was, this wouldn't be a problem. So it shuts down your memories. It shuts off access to the hippocampus where all your memories are stored. In combination with this, you wind up in a different town. You hitchhike. You buy a train ticket. You have money on you. You know how to do things. People with dissociative fugue have wound up in different states with different identities, right? And they're tracked down. Here's a video of a guy who went to go visit his mother and wound up in a different city not knowing who he was.
Finally tonight, a man without memory. A month and a half ago, he turned up in Denver asking for help. He was diagnosed with the type of amnesia, a condition that often creates suspicions that victims might be faking it. This man apparently wasn't, and now he's been identified and reintroduced to the woman who loves him. Here's ABC's David Muir.
Jeffrey Ingram hugged his fiancée today, who just 24 hours ago he couldn't even identify. He didn't even know himself. In fact, the mystery man went on national television over the weekend, hoping someone would know what he did not.
I feel totally lost. I feel totally alone. I'm very depressed. I'm very anxious about everything, and I don't fit in anywhere.
Mr. Ingram was found wandering the streets of Denver last month with just $8 in his pocket and a cap on his head. Authorities nicknamed him Al. Doctors who examined him are convinced his is a very rare but very real case of amnesia, right down to what he likes for breakfast.
Pancakes, everybody loves pancakes.
I try to look for information in my head, and it's not there.
It's just blank.
Yeah.
Soon after his national plea came his answer. His family saw him and called police. But with his biggest question answered, there is now an avalanche of others. How did he wind up in Denver? And can he be believed?
Absolutely. In most instances, I don't believe that these are just people who are malingering or making up their symptoms.
Ingram left his home last month to visit his mother in Canada, but never made it. And it turns out he suffered from amnesia once before. In this case, doctors diagnosed him with what's called dissociative fugue. Experts say the cause with this type of amnesia is most often psychological.
Sometimes it's just a stress-related phenomena where a person, so to speak, goes off the deep end.
And when we asked the doctor, could this happen to anyone, he simply answered yes. This type of amnesia affects up to 600,000 Americans. And while Mr. Ingram was reunited with his future wife today, he has yet to get his memory back.
Okay, so let's talk about dissociative fugue. Causes. We'll skip right down to causes. Dissociative fugue is caused by repetitive, constant stress. It's either the same thing over and over again. It's an abusive relationship. It's a boss that's just beating you up every day. It's never catching a break. And it is the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. Your brain breaks. Your brain shuts down. But you're still functioning. And it's terrifying in that how common is it? 600,000 Americans? That's a lot! Now, sometimes you just wind up in the next town, or it's just a day, right? You're in a motel in Naperville and you can't figure out why. But then your memory comes back and you blacked out, right? You blacked out a portion of your time. And those that suffer fugues, it's really difficult to get anybody to believe you. What are you talking about? You went for 3 days and you don't remember anything. You spent $1,000. That's called a weekend bender. That's not a dissociative fugue state. That's the scary thing about some of these psychological illnesses is you can't let someone know. Listen, honest to God, I'm depressed. No, you're not. You're just being a negative whatever. Like, no, you don't get it. And that's the problem, is you don't get it. And these are the things that sort of repeat throughout this process. Treatment? None. De-stress? Change your job? Leave your partner that's sort of causing all of this thing? You know, start doing mindful meditative yoga? I don't know. But there is no, and here's the problem, outlook, if you don't change, this is going to happen again. This can be repeated. And once that first break happens, the second is more likely. In a way, it's like concussions. Okay, the first one happens, and then the second one is sort of easier to slip back into that mode. Your mind is like, well, this happened, so I'm gonna go with it this time. But it is often faked, right? Because this is a perfect excuse for getting out of something, right? I just wound up in another town. I don't know who I was. But there's tests, doctors talking to you and stuff that if you don't really know what's going on with amnesia. All right, so that's dissociative fugue state. Questions? There's dissociative amnesia where eventually this guy got his memory back. He worked through enough therapy and he got his memory back. But doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes people just have to start over. If you read up on Dissociative Fugue, there's a woman who left Vermont and she wound up in New York City with a job and an apartment and a new name. And someone just recognized her, like, Nancy, what are you doing here? I don't know who Nancy is. No, swear to God, you're Nancy. And it was very, very strange in that. Like, you could just all of a sudden pick up a new life.
How do you do that? Wouldn't you need like a new social security number?
In New York City, to get a job at a restaurant and apartment, not necessarily. Not necessarily. But you would think, right? But there's plenty of places. Listen, you don't think there's a place around here that you can find, pay rent weekly?
Yeah.
You know, someone's got a basement they're renting out, you know, for $80 a week or something like that. It's possible. All right, let's move on to bipolar disorder. Bipolar disorder is one of the most misunderstood and misused psychological disorders out there. I'll hear people in class say, oh my God, 1 minute my mom is like all nice with me and then she's pissed at me for something. Swear to God, she's so bipolar. No. No. Bipolar, two poles, opposite ends. The definition of bipolar is extended bouts of mania and then extended bouts of depression. And those are the opposite ends of the spectrum. Mania and depression. Now, depression we all sort of have a feel for to a certain extent. I don't know that people understand mania. One of the most famous people ever with bipolar is Robin Williams. There is a disproportionately large percentage of bipolar comedians. Jim Carrey, okay, Robin Williams, and when you see them perform, it's controlled mania. So I want to show you, this is Robin Williams on Johnny Carson.
This is Robin Williams' first appearance on the
back in the day.
He doesn't do many outside appearances. I think I saw him about 3 years ago. I think he was on with Dick Cabot one night. You know, he's the star of the very successful Morgan Mini Show, which is beginning its fourth season on the air this Thursday. And he's going to see a new film late next spring called The World According to Garth. You ever read that book? Interesting, funny book. Would you welcome Robin Williams? People always think performers don't get nervous.
No, really. I don't. Oh, God. Not really. Not really. No way.
Is there some reason you don't do this? The fact that you get nervous?
Very much so. I suffer from severe dyslexia, too. I was the only child in my block in Halloween to go pick a trout. Look, here comes that young Williams boy again. Better get some fish. Here you go. Say hi to your mom and dad.
Where is home for you, or did you come from a home?
They said, oh, the people at the institution, Tommy. If you haven't taken your medication yet, it's gonna be fun.
You're back at 12. Back at 12, yeah. No. All right, Mr. Williams, I'm real fine.
Look at this thing. Look, Flipper.
It's hard to capture mania on film. Mania is scary. I've had students, bipolar disorder, untreated bipolar disorder. I don't want to do a disservice to like do an impersonation of mania, but everything is high energy. So if you want to, what I did on my piece of paper under symptoms, I divided that tiny little box in half, and I just put mania and depression, and just a couple of things under mania and depression. Mania is sounds great that you have all of this energy and you don't need sleep and you're super motivated. Let's say I was like, woke up one morning in a manic episode and I call up a friend and I go, Bailey, you know how I always wanted to start that film production agency? Well, we're going to start it today. Here's what we're going to do. I've got this money in the bank. We're going to cash that money out. We're going to take your car. We're driving to Hollywood. And on the way, we're going to pick up a few people that want to be actors because there's always actors on the side of the road. Here's what we're going to do. All right, first, what we have to do is you got to sell your coin collection, right? Because we're going to need money to fund some of the other things. We're going to start the company. It's going to be great. and you just...
They're just racing and going?
Yeah. Being on cocaine without being on cocaine, not needing sleep, this decision-making is tragic. It seems like such a good idea now, okay? It's not usually that frenetic, you know, but it's, hey, we need to do this. Why don't we always do this? We always talked about, let's just do it now. And you're going along with these feelings, but it's sort of hyper energy, sometimes hypersexualized energy, bad decision making, and this is for a period of at least 2 weeks. This is not an afternoon. This is a manic episode lasting at least 10 days. Now the cycle is, it's bipolar, right? Mania, you're up here for 2 weeks. Robin Williams, like that all the time. They said he doesn't do a lot of appearances because he was an unmedicated bipolar sufferer. So he never knew if you read some of the books about Robin Williams, when he was on, man, he was hilarious. You ever watch any of early Jim Carrey stuff? Mm-hmm. When Ace Ventura? Mm-hmm. That is unmedicated mania. They just let him go. Liar, liar. Some of the stuff in there where he's beating the hell out of himself in the bathroom, that's just him going. The flip side is you have 2 weeks of mania, and now you've got 2 weeks of major depression. Okay? The symptoms of major depression are what you think they are. Either insomnia or hypersomnia. You're sleeping 3 hours a day or 20 hours a day. The major component of depression is something called anhedonia. A-N-H-E-D-O-N-I-A. The stuff that usually gives you joy no longer gives you joy. You got a friend, listen, friends trying to help people that have depression are like the most fabulous thing in the world. They'll try anything. Hey, you know what? Let's go shopping. You love shopping. Let's just go. We'll hit the mall, and we always cheers you up. No, I'm not. I'm just gonna be here. Let's play video games. You'll kick my ass in this. It'll be great. Stuff you always love to do, you don't love to do. So if you've got 2 weeks of mania, and then all the bad decisions you made, and all the guilt that goes with it, boom, now it's 2 to 3 weeks of depression, and then it's the low, and then we cycle back up. It's a devastating cycle that doesn't stop. So here's Robin Williams. This is one of the last interviews that he gave on the down times for him.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Robin Williams.
Perhaps it was no coincidence that Robin Williams' HBO tour was called Weapons of Self-Destruction.
Ta-da! You are an alcoholic. And some people say, Robin, I'm a functioning alcoholic. Which is, you can be one. It's like being a paraplegic lap dancer. You can do it. Just not as well as the others, really.
And perhaps it was no coincidence either that Williams did that tour in 2009, a year after a major operation.
Please, I've had heart surgery, thank you.
Surgery that he says triggered mood swings.
But after the surgery, you get very emotional. It's like, it's like weird people go, how are you? God, thanks for asking.
For Williams, it was all fair game.
When I was growing up, they used to say, Robin, drugs can kill you. And now that I'm 58, my doctor's going, Robin, you need drugs to live.
Raw, honest, self-deprecating humor in which Williams shares with the world his struggles with alcohol and drugs.
I had a little problem with alcohol. It wasn't really a problem, everybody had it. But it was the idea. You were I was an hour drunk. You were drunk.
Now, do you think you've beaten it?
No, Larry. It's always better.
Yeah, I kicked it.
No, fine. No, the idea is that you always have a little bit of fear, like you have to just keep at it. You know, it's a day by day.
In 1982, as a young comedian, Williams famously partied with pal John Belushi, hours before the Blues Brothers star overdosed on heroin and cocaine.
Cocaine, what a wonderful drug. Anything that makes you paranoid, impotent, give me more of that.
Williams soon quit cold turkey and remained sober nearly 2 decades until 2003, then relapse and rehab, here in 2006 for comic relief.
It's always good for me to come to Vegas after rehab. I love that.
It's a good town for you.
Good town for me. It's like going to Colombia, you know, where are you going for detox? Colombia. Just to take it easy in a 24-hour alcohol town.
In 2008, when his second marriage ended as a result of alcoholism, he says, Williams again went to rehab, joking about it with U.S. troops.
So he talks about the swings, right? So let's fill in some of the blanks for you here on your note sheet, right? We've got a definition, right? Major extended mania paired with major depression episodes. We've got symptoms of both mania and depression. I gave those to you. How common is this? I would say rare, but 1% of the population is still pretty common. It means there's 8 or 9 people in this building.
Is there actually?
No, but by percentages, by percentages. That seems like a lot. Here's the sort of upsetting factor. Causes, usually just family history. This one's tricky. Bipolar, there's bipolar 1, there's bipolar 2, there's hypomania, there's all sorts of elements of bipolar. And if you want to dig deeper, this is one that you can really sink your teeth into and try and come to grips with.
What happened to him? Did his parents die?
No. I'm talking family history as in genetic. It runs in the family. Treatment. This is one that I use the term managing your illness, just like Coach Zach manages his illness with insulin. This is you need to manage your illness with mood stabilizers, right? With antidepressants and mood stabilizers, so those manic episodes are not so manic, and so those lows aren't so low. From here to here, you're on a cycle, the Robin Williams cycle, and the only way is to self-medicate. But if your highs are here and your lows are here, now that's more in the line of sort of the rest of the human race. We all have highs and lows, and if we can manage those things. So drug therapy mixed with sort of psychotherapy and talking about these things. Outlook can be managed, right? So the outlook for bipolar is that it can be managed. But it's not something you can give up on. Oh, I'm good now. It's just something you're going to have to come to grips with, saying, all right, well, this is how I'm going to have to deal with this. Questions on bipolar. These are thumbnail sketches, okay? This is a very brief outlook. Trying to do 4 of these in 50 minutes. Finally, Pica, okay? I'll do the notes quick, and then I'll show a couple of videos. Pica the definition is the persistent eating of non-nutritious non-foods. The persistent eating of non-nutritive non-foods. Under symptoms, I mean, it's stuff like paper, soap, cloth, hair, string, dirt, paint, sand, anything that doesn't have nutrition value, and you continue to eat it persistently at least a month. How common is this? Totally unknown. Completely unknown. People don't admit this. Hey, I eat nails. What? Yeah, the small ones? Yeah, I eat them. How do we know about this? When they have bowel obstructions. Okay, when they have to go to the doctor and have surgery to pull all of this non-food stuff out of their stomach. So we only see, now some of this stuff can be passed, right? The woman that's drinking little bottle caps of bleach, okay? What's that?
Bleach. Oh, bleach.
Bleach, right? And she would soak like things in bleach and eat them.
I had a friend who through all of grade school, they would eat paper. He had a whole notebook. He almost ate a whole notebook of paper.
Yeah, my brother's best friend eats erasers. He just takes the erasers off and he eats them.
So there's some research into the causes, And there's been some weird research that says if you have some sort of vitamin deficiency, you might look for it in weird places. But if we're being honest, this is mostly due to neglect and lack of supervision. Hey, stop eating erasers. Oh, it's just paper. It's not that big a deal. It's got fiber in it, you know. No, you need to stop that. That's not okay. That's going to cause some other issues. How they treat this is, so treatment is behavioral therapy. Every time you feel the need to eat or drink whatever, they substitute that in with something else. You're going to, actually, strangely enough, fidget spinners became part of behavioral therapy. Every time that you feel like you need to do this, I want you to get out your fidget cube, right? And that will distract you, or I want you to do this, or whatever is going to work then. Outlook is good if treatment is sought. If someone says, I have a problem, but you're going to see this girl that eats sand, she doesn't think it's a big deal. So let me show you a couple of quick videos on this. I think you've seen, listen, if you want stuff to research, there are so many on YouTube. Here's the girl that eats sand.
My name is Bria. I'm 19 years old. And I'm addicted to eating sand.
Oh, I hate that feeling so much at the beach. You get it in your teeth on accident, you chew on something.
Like a seasoning or something. Taking a tortilla chip, dipped them in sand, and it gave the
Oh, I hate that so much when I go to the beach.
You're not going to like this 2 minutes.
You hear it so,
in a combination,
like I'm chewing on it still.
When I mix it with gum, it's
What?
like mouth-watering.
It's mouth-watering.
Bria's addiction first developed 5 years ago when she accidentally got a mouthful of sand at the beach. She was instantly hooked on the crunchy texture.
I eat it when I'm walking in class. When I'm reading a book. Before I go to bed, I put like a pinch in my mouth. When I wake up in the morning, there's still pieces like in my teeth. It's like leftovers.
What? When I first found out that Bria was eating sand, I was like, oh my gosh, that is crazy. That's nasty.
She doesn't go out just in the playground to get it. She gets special sand.
I wonder how much sand she is in
When I'm craving sand, I lick my finger and then dip it inside of the sand.
That ain't sand, that looks like dirt.
On the back of my teeth.
It's probably special
Just chew
sand.
it. I like the fact that it grits on my teeth. It gives it that crunch that you don't get from food.
What does her dentist say? Like, is this sand?
Bria is so dependent on that satisfying crunch, she turns to nail files when her sand supply runs low.
It has like sandpaper on it. It gives me the same crunch. So,
It's like a beef jerky for... She eating or just chewing it?
Okay.
Bria's cravings can't be satisfied with just...
All right, and then this is the woman that ate her bed.
Oh yeah, I saw that one.
If you wash it out of the tub.
Yeah, probably not.
She was like, it just comes right out. And then she uses the bathroom and it's just like a whole piece of foam.
Big foam.
my name is Jennifer, and I'm addicted to eating mattresses. I like my mattress plain and straight up. I know.
Oh, she doesn't put any sauce on it or nothing?
Ranch barbecue.
It's just plain normal.
Just so that she likes it plain and straight up.
Yeah.
As if she's fried eggs.
Yeah, for real.
I was like, oh. It blew my mind.
Just watching. He's okay.
A square foot a day. That's a tile's worth of mattress.
I make sure, like, when my mom's
a big
not
girl,
in her room,
so-
I can be in her room.
She sleep on her bed?
Like, say when she get in the shower.
Yeah, I was gonna
to throw it in there to get it. The reason why I'm not eating my own mattress is because I ate my mattress already. The side effects of eating mattresses is gas is really the only one you have. It enters my body, it leaves my body. It goes through my system and goes out.
I'm very concerned about her health,
And our digestive system, I have seen it
Yes, you
in the toilet. It comes out in whole pieces.
Age 5. What the? She a goat?
I was sitting in the back seat, and it was like sponge down there. And I just picked it and took it and was like, just chewed on it. I've eaten couches, box springs, chairs, but for the last 10 years, mattresses has just been my thing.
Yeah, wouldn't that like clog your?
So how often do you eat mattress foam?
Because you
I
can't digest
consume it
it.
every day. And my breath is like this thick.
You know, the problem you face is you're going to have a hole in your intestine or a complete bowel obstruction, and it's going to be an emergency. And emergency means you could die.
Okay, a little fear in my heart there. It just got serious.
You can change this.
I am going to change this. I am going to change this.
Okay, so listen. This is not. We've got a range of things. I don't think this woman ever decided that, hey, I'm going to develop this really catastrophic issue. Just like nobody sees a lot of this stuff coming. It's learning to deal with it and learning how to get help for these things. So that's 4 disorders. That's 4 out of about 300. So we'll do 4 more tomorrow, and then have a little quiz on Friday. The project for this one is going to be a little different. Yeah, you're going to be looking into a disorder, but it's not going to be like a PowerPoint presentation or anything like that. I'll hit you with that on Friday. It's going to be a little.
I gotta get the notes from the
I'm posting everything on YouTube. So, thank you.